Can Justin Herbert do enough to justify his ridiculous ownership today? That and more today on the Run the Sims podcast. You won't be seeing me today as I try to get my hotel situation figured out, but I will have the screen shared so everybody can see what's going on. The injury segment's going to be super easy because, well, there are none that we care about. Justin Jackson was injured, but he seems like he's going to go after being a full participant on Friday. So nothing to worry about there. We've got Pittsburgh heading to see the Los Angeles Chargers, a total of 47.5 with the Chargers minus 5.5. So in this game, it seems like the Chargers are going to be the most popular play, but I don't think Pittsburgh has enough firepower to really do the contrarian thing where we try to play the other side of the ball. So I think we're just going to have to get unique with how we play Justin Herbert and the rest of the Chargers offense. So we have Justin Herbert appearing in 53% of the flex and 11% of captain, but we do have ownership and we have him at 71% ownership. So it's going to be tough to fade him when you're stacking the Charger side of the ball, but there is going to have to be a case where you get contrarian. Najee Harris is 45.7% in the flex, 16% at captain. That's a little higher than his ownership, which is 34% in the flex and 12% at captain. Austin Eckler, 41% in the flex, 16% at captain. Keenan Allen, 39% in the flex, 14% at captain. Mike Williams, my favorite play of the slate, 30% in the flex, 10% in the captain. Dionte Johnson, 28% in the flex, 8% in the captain. Patrick Freiermuth, 30% in the flex, 5% in the captain. So he's appearing slightly less than he is owned. If you remember, he was the optimal captain last showdown slate for the Steelers. So I doubt he goes under owned this slate, even though his price being 5,400 is pretty enticing, and people might be a little afraid because Eric Ebron's coming back. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. Ben Roethlisberger are all the way down here at 30% in the flex, 3% in the captain. Jared Cook, 26 in the flex, 4% at captain. And then you get all the way down here to like Chase Claypool's only appearing in 14% of lineups. I actually think he's a reasonable play because he's overpriced, so his ownership should be really low. And the Steelers can benefit from negative game script. You've got like Ray McLeod appearing in 13%. He might be good leverage off of James Washington. We've got Donald Parham down here, 12%. Everyone loves playing Donald Parham on Showdown slates. There's not really any statistical point to point at to say that he's a good play, but he always scores touchdowns in prime time. So I don't know what to say about that. James Washington, 9% in the flex, basically no captain. So between James Washington and Ray McLeod is a good decision point. I mean, James Washington's 4,800, Ray McLeod's 3,400, and they're both projected about the same. So it's really going to be up to you whether you want to go with Ray McLeod or James Washington. My lean is that James Washington is slightly more expensive, so he's probably the better play in terms of ownership. His ownership will be lower, and he's going to see more snaps probably. So I'd prefer to go James Washington, and it looks like we have him projected for 2% less ownership. Not really anyone down here. I mean, so Eric Ebron, you're not going to play him. 3,200. He's only appearing in 4.4% of the lineups. So, I mean, I guess you can hope for a touchdown, but we don't have him projected for much. We're going to go over here to our custom lineups. I'm not going to build anything in Draftkings today as I just try to get my setup figured out in this hotel for the next couple weeks. But we'll go through a little extra on the optimal lineups. So we've got Keenan Allen at captain, Larry Roundtree, Austin Eckler, Josh Kelly, Najee Harris, Justin Herbert. You're going to notice that you see a lot of Charger symbols on the screen right now, right? So we're going to have to look over at this sum ownership and figure out how to get our Chargers on slots low enough owned to be viable, because it seems like this is what everyone's going to go with. Next, let's do a Mike Williams. Mike Williams, my favorite captain of the slate, my favorite flex of the slate. So Mike Williams at captain, Donald Parham, Keenan Allen, Najee Harris, Jared Cook, Justin Herbert. This lineup does a really good job of getting in, so no one's going to play Jared Cook and Donald Parham, so that's good. Mike Williams at captain is going to be low owned. I don't love not having Austin Eckler. I think Austin Eckler should be in most lineups because he's not game script dependent, so he can be a receiving threat if the Chargers find themselves down, or he can be like a workhorse if they find themselves up. Let's look at another Mike Williams lineup that's got a little bit less ownership. That's Mike Williams at captain, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Larry Roundtree, Najee Harris, Dustin Hopkins. Kicker has been appearing in more and more lineups, and their ownership hasn't been too terribly egregious. So I'm sort of softening up on my stance with that. But I love this lineup because it's got two running backs from the same team. And then it's also got Najee Harris as the lone run back. So I think that Najee Harris and Austin Eckler should be in most lineups. And uh, how do you get contrarian when you have Justin Herbert in most lineups, Austin Eckler in most lineups, Najee Harris? Well, you can stack two running backs from the same team, and then you can do a 5-by-1 with Najee Harris as the lone run back and assume that he's going to be used as a primary receiving threat. Next, we'll look at an Austin Eckler captain. So Austin Eckler, Dustin Hopkins, Justin Herbert, Pat Freiermuth, Jared Cook, Keenan Allen. Lineup I'm okay with. That's a lot of ownership, though, and your ceiling's kind of capped with kicker, and you're not really getting contrarian at captain. This lineup right here is one that I wanted to point out because I love it. So another way to get even more unique with Najee Harris and Austin Eckler in the same lineup is going to be play Najee Harris as captain, but run 1-by-5. So Najee Harris at captain, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, Larry Roundtree, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. I might go with a different play than Larry Roundtree here, but I do love this lineup. You could build around this so many different ways. Just put Najee Harris in captain and see how unique you can get with your 5 Chargers. And now you've got a lineup that's probably not going to be duplicated by very many people. There's data that says that this lineup, the opposing underdogs in captain by themselves is not going to be used very much. So shout out to Cody Main for that. He puts out great data on that. So this is definitely a unique way to approach this game. And then we'll look at one more Mike Williams, just because I love that. I love Mike Williams at captain so much. So Mike Williams at captain, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, Josh Kelly, Jared Cook, Justin Herbert. I don't really have a lean between Larry Roundtree and Josh Kelly. I think they're both fine plays. I like playing both of them with Austin Eckler. So it's really a toss-up. We can go over to optimal results and see. So Larry Roundtree is appearing in 15.4% of the lineups. Let's look at Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly's appearing at 9.5. So both of them are perfectly viable. Finish with projections and get out of here. So Najee Harris is projected 21.5, Herbert 21.3, Austin Eckler 20.3, Keenan Allen 18, Ben Roethlisberger 15, Dionte Johnson 14, Mike Williams 13, Pat Freiermuth 10, Jared Cook 8, Chase Claypool 8, Dustin Hopkins 7, Chris Boswell 6, Chargers 5. And then you've got this decision point, James Washington, Ray McLeod. James Washington's 5.1, Ray McLeod's 4.9. So James Washington's a little more expensive, but maybe a little less ownership. Steelers at 4.7, Parham at 3.8. And you get the point after that. Those are all punt plays. So that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we will catch y'all next time. Peace.